This morning, June the 26th, 1862, it was evident that the enemy was advancing all along the line. The whole of the army was marching and counter-marching and taking positions. I am entirely at sea with regard to dates, but will say that General Daniel H. Hill's North Carolina Division was sent around on the Mechanicsville Road to join General Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson's corps on the enemy's right flank. When we reached the Richmond and Mechanicsville Road, we heard heavy firing from musketry and cannon, and advancing slowly down a long hill to the bottom, we halted just where the road started up grade. The firing was terrific down the creek just below us. We heard the rebel yell, and within a few minutes, a courier came dashing up, reporting that Colonel William Pender, who was in command of a North Carolina brigade, had made a gallant charge and driven the enemy across the creek at Gaines's Mill. Just at this time, Major John T. Hambrick of the 13th Regiment was sitting on his horse across the road. The enemy had taken position on top of the hill in front of us and turned loose some solid shot right down the road which we occupied. The major was reminded of his danger, but said, "Attend to your business." About that time, a 24-pound shot struck in the road some distance from where we were, and the second bounce struck the horse just behind the major's thigh and knocked the horse from under him into the ditch among us boys, as dead as a doornail. The major was badly bruised from the jar. He was sent back to Richmond, where he resigned, and Captain Henry A. Rogers of Company D was elected in his place. The 13th Regiment advanced slowly all night and skirmished with the enemy, who were falling back very stubbornly. Next morning, June the 27th, if memory serves me, we found General Stonewall Jackson's old command, which had fought and won 3 grand victories over Federals General Nathaniel P. Banks, General James Shields, and General Robert H. Milroy in the Valley, and had left them to wonder while he slipped up in General George B. McClellan's rear. The 13th Regiment, then under General Samuel Garland and General Daniel H. Hill, were with General Jackson. He led us directly south to what is known as the Cold Harbor Battlefield. There, we encountered the enemy at about 1 o'clock. They began shelling the road. This was the first thing we knew, but of course Major Generals Jackson and Hill knew where they were. General Garland's brigade was double quick to the right of the road, behind a clump of woods, to the head of a small boggy branch, and crossed over into a small cleared patch of land. Here, Colonel Alfred M. Scales formed the 13th Regiment, ready to advance. The enemy found us out and commenced shelling us terribly. B.B. Stiers of Company Y was killed by a shell at my left hand. Just then, General Hill came riding up and told Colonel Scales that the enemy were advancing on us through the field, just over the fence, and to advance at once. At the top of a steep hill, which was about 90 yards, there was a high new fence. General Hill ordered us not to climb it, but to tear it down, run over it, and to charge the enemy. We marched steadily up the bluff to the fence. Every man seized the fence and rushed against it, and it fell as if a tornado had struck it. Down the hill we went, yelling and shooting like mad men. The enemy ran like sheep before a pack of dogs. We were pursuing them in a southerly course. General Hill had come up where we had torn the fence down. There, he saw the enemy on our left flank advancing and about to enfilade General Garland's brigade. Garland ordered a change in the front, and Colonel Scales rushed in front of the 13th Regiment as cool as if we had been on drill. His voice rang clear. He gave the command, "Battalion, left half wheel." The old 13th Regiment swung around like a door on its hinges. By the time we fronted our new position, the enemy were within 150 yards of us at a large dwelling house and in position behind a fence along the road, with their guns poked through the fence. There we met the most galling storm of lead I ever saw. We charged the fence up a long slant and poured lead back at them as fast as we could load, shoot, and charge. Here again, I'm not able to give the number of casualties of my regiment, but it was something terrible. I know that in my company, at the foot of the little hill, one of my file, at the right of the company, Yancey Coleman fell, and next his brother Milton. Next I saw Noel Rhodes fall. They were all killed. Ingram Rhodes fell wounded in the thigh. Matthew Apple was killed. Micajah Warren fell. It seemed that all would be killed before we could dislodge the enemy. But on we went. When we were within 50 feet of the fence, a bomb exploded over our heads so close to us that the concussion stunned me. I fell and was unconscious for 3 hours. When I regained my senses, the sun was setting and the enemy gone from the fence. The dead and dying were all around me. Will Penix of Company A was lying across my legs, shot through the lungs, and was crying for water. I gave him some and got up to leave, but fell again. I found that my limbs were for the time paralyzed, and so I crawled down the hill where I found the 13th Regiment, or what was left of it. Willie Stone of Company H was lying on the field next morning, seemingly dead. The ball went in at one temple just behind his eyes and out at the other. His eyes were both pushed out of their sockets. We marched that day down to the Chickahominy River and left Stone lying on the ground. It was Saturday morning when we left. The battle was Friday evening, June 27th. Wednesday, following, the man who owned the place went back to his home to see what had been done by the army, and he heard a strange noise in the swamp. When he went down there, he found young Stone crawling through the thicket, hunting for water. Stone had revived himself, had found that his eyes were out, and took his fingers and put them back, but he was blind and is to this day.
If you enjoyed today's video and would like to see more content like this, be sure to take a shot at the like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest BirdDogg content. And if you'd like to support the channel, for a limited time there's exclusive Civil War Diaries merchandise available in the video link below.